Hey, welcome back to another episode of Maintenance with Mike. So today on Maintenance with Mike, I'm calling it. It is the end of the season cut for us here in southeastern British Columbia. It's getting cold enough overnight that the grass is really slowing down as far as growth goes. So I just did one last cut to get the oil nice and hot in the lawnmower. I'm going to dump the oil out of the lawnmower. One thing you want to do, if you can, if you have the ability to get non-ethanol fuel in your area, I always run the tank out of the 87, which I use all summer long. I use 87 ethanol, which is a marked fuel for recreational, a little bit cheaper here. Once that runs out, I have a container that, unfortunately here, if I go down to the US, I have to take a 20-liter jerry can with me and fill it up with non-ethanol fuel, because you can't get non-ethanol fuel anymore in Canada for whatever reason. So we've run it out of the 87 fuel. We've put a tiny bit of the non-ethanol, I think it's 90 in here, and we've run it for a bit. So the carburetor has non-ethanol fuel in it now. The fuel lines have non-ethanol fuel in it now, which is going to keep the carburetor from getting moisture and stuff over the winter, because this does not get stored inside. It gets stored in a shed, so it's subject to cold weather conditions. So we're going to change the oil today. I save myself a little bit of money because I do not change the filter, the oil filter, every time. So every other year I change the oil filter. And the reason being is, for whatever reason, this is a smaller filter than any vehicle normally, and they seem to cost twice as much. And the amount of hours that I put on the tractor throughout the year just doesn't warrant replacing the filter every time. So I'll spin the filter off, I'll dump the oil out of it, I'll fill it up with new oil, I put the old filter back on, run it for a little bit, and then we put it away for the winter. You also want to, if you can, I pull the battery out of my machine. I pull the battery out of it, I put it on a piece of cardboard or plywood in the garage on the floor, and I have 2 or 3 trickle chargers that I alternate between vehicles and motorcycles and stuff like that, just because you want to keep this battery topped up. This is the oil drain on my machine on this side here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a ramp, just a Princess Auto, or the equivalent of Tractor Supply in the US. In Canada is Princess Auto. We're just going to put this side up, elevate it a little bit here. It just makes it flow out easier. Let's fire up the machine. We'll get it up on the ramp. We'll drain the oil. Let's get started. Put the safety brake on. And does that look like it's on any more of an angle? I don't know. I think the rear needed to come up as well. Maybe we'll just put, these machines are just, made out of really cheap tin. So I think we'll just put a block of wood under this wheel just to get a little bit more angle, because it looks like we've just we've just lifted the whole suspension here and haven't really gained any angle. So we got a couple blocks here. We're just going to lift this up. We're going to tuck these underneath. That'll give us a little bit more of a drain angle. I've done this a few times, and the people that have done this for themselves in the past can also swear by how much of an annoyance this is sometimes. Most people put an extension on. I just thought I'd go with, here's my catch basin here. Here's a chunk of 3/4 hose, which actually fits right onto that little spigot. Now we've got it all heading this way. So I think you just pull out on this now, or push or something, or turn, or okay, it's just got a lock. There we go. And there's the oil flowing. So we are draining the oil now from the lawn tractor. I use SAE 30. I don't use a multi-viscosity like a 10W or a 5W. I just use straight SAE 30 weight. Pull that fill plug just to let it flow a little better. And as I said, we'll probably spin the filter off and dump the oil out of it as well, just to make sure we get the most amount of old oil we can out. Okay, so we've got pretty much all of that drained out of there. We've got a couple of clean paper towels here, or semi-clean paper towels. We're just going to clean off this O-ring, and you can see the amount of dust and debris that's on that, around that top of that cap. You want to keep these O-rings nice and clean, because that obviously keeps any dust from going into your into the throat, into the motor. So we'll wipe that off nice and clean. Make sure we don't leave any paper towel fragments on there. So that's good and clean, ready to go back in. We are going to make sure this throat is clean, where the O-rings are going to seat. We're going to, this is a great tip. You got to have this chunk of 3/4 inch hose. So now I think you just push this back in and turn it to lock it, and that's it for draining. You can put that little cap back on wherever I put that. And all this dust and debris and stuff here will get blown out of there once we hit this whole thing with the leaf blower for the winter. Okay, so now we need to try to catch all of the oil from the filter. So what I do is I put this down on the ground now, move this out of the way, and I've got one of the old windshield washer fluids with the cap still on. We can put that underneath the filter. So when we unscrew that, it's just going to fill that that reservoir up. Now, we don't really want to use an oil filter wrench on that, because if we do actually puncture this thin metal here, we could have a leak. So if you cannot get the oil filter off to just drain the fluid, the oil out of it, then I'd suggest just leaving it. But if it was colder, it might come off a little better. I'm going to grab a little sticky piece of rubber and see if I can get a good grip on there. So this is a little tip. This is just a chunk of RV stuff that they put in for recreational vehicles, where they put this in their cupboards and stuff so plates and things don't slide around. It's kind of sticky. I just have a little chunk of it that I use for trying to grip onto. So righty tighty, lefty loosey. Let's see if we can get this to move. Ooh, I don't think so. I don't think that's moving. Oh, nope. I believe I've put that on too tight. Okay, you definitely want to be very careful with this, because if you are to puncture that, now we're in a bit of pain here. So I'm hoping to just catch. No, that's not going to work, is it? I just want to catch the ring on the filter here to see if I can get it to turn. Oh, that is tight, eh? Oh, that's because I was tightening it. Let's go this way. Okay, so far it doesn't look like I punctured it, so that's good. We're going to put our little catch underneath here and keep turning this, and it's going to start to drain, make a big mess. There's an awful lot of old oil in there that you don't want to leave in there, so make your choice, I guess, on, everybody has their own opinions about oils and filters and stuff. every other year, I think is fine. Again, that's just a personal opinion. I might be roasted in the comments for that. The cost of the filter versus the cost of the engine. I get that. I know the consequences. The O-ring is still on the filter. You want to make sure that doesn't fall off somewhere in a container, because that has to be mated back against the steel surface. You don't have to go crazy cleaning the inside of it out. The O-ring's automatically lubricated already with oil, which is good. We're just going to use this rag here to clean off the bulk here, because that's the dirtiest one. And we'll grab the newer rag. You try to get this filter as clean as you can, just because it's just going to attract dust if you don't. And that's it, basically. You can screw this filter back on now and fill up the machine. Screw this back on. Again, making sure that you have the O-ring still on the filter. So we've made contact now. We're going to use our little grippy RV. That's it. Filter's back on. Okay, so now remember, we've drained the oil, so there's no oil in the engine right now. So we wouldn't want to start it to drive it off the ramp. But I'm going to show you a little secret. On the back of this machine, there is a small little, looks like a coat hanger, a hook. In order to push this machine manually, you need to disconnect the hydrostatic. You pull this back and lock it, and now you can roll the machine. Once you're done rolling it, you pop that up and you push it back in, and now you can use the pedals to go forward and reverse. But you should not move the machine manually without disconnecting the transmission. So that's a little tip for you. So let's push it off the ramp here. Just roll it back now. Okay. There we go. Put the emergency brake back on. Open the lid. And we're going to disconnect or reconnect the hydrostatic with that little coat hanger thing. So now it'll drive once we start it. We're going to grab the manual. We're going to see what it says for oil. I use Castrol SAE 30. It's not a multi-viscosity oil, but there's two manuals that comes with the machine, one for the actual mower itself and then one with the motor. I see here in the actual manual, you can use a 10W or a 5W multi-viscosity as well, as long as it meets the standards. Of course, they recommend Kohler oils. I use the Castrol heavy-duty SAE 30. So if you're 0 degrees Celsius and above, which is, obviously you're cutting at that time of year, SAE 30 or 10W 30 is recommended. And this is the SV601 or the SV601. So the oil capacity fill is 1.5 liters or 1.6 US quarts. So 1.5 liters goes back in. So it's all there in the manual. You just got to read it. Okay, in she goes. So drain is closed, new filter's on. Okay, that's the check. New oil going in. Now, of course, in that item in the manual, it said 1.5 liters for oil and filter change. Well, you're going to use less oil now that you've reused the filter, because you're not saturating the paper, the filter, with oil. So you won't actually have to add 1.5 liters. It's going to be slightly less. So I'm going to put 1.25 maybe. Close it all up, fire it up, let that filter fill again. Okay, let's put the dipstick back in now that it's nice and clean. The O-rings have sealed. That's in. That's in. Nothing appears to be leaking. Let's fire it up for a couple minutes and then we'll check the oil. Okay, now, don't usually check the oil right away. You want to let that sit now and come back to level. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull off this air cleaner. We're going to have a look at that. Wow, that's dirty, eh? We have cleaned this filter medium out. Kind of put this, let this go here now this way. Let's put this back on. Okay, so now the filter's blown out, the pre-filter's blown out. We've added oil, we're on level ground. It's been sitting for a bit now. We probably can pull that dipstick and have a look. Looks like we're full. We're right on the, right up to here on the crosshatch. So that's pretty much where you want to be. A good way to do this is to hold your thing and dip the dipstick onto the paper towel. And then you can see how much it's come up. So we're right at the crosshatch there. So yeah, it's perfect. So that's back in. Put the filter back on. Doesn't appear to have any leaks, which is good. That's back in and tight. So that's going to do it for today's video. We've changed the oil and cleaned the air filter in the ride-on mower. We've put fresh gas in it. That's a non-ethanol fuel. We've run it for a while, so some of that non-ethanol fuel has gotten into the carburetor. As well, you should remove your battery, like I'd mentioned earlier. Pull the battery off. I need to go park the machine again, and then I'll disconnect it. But you should take that battery into your shop for the winter time. Even if you don't put it on a trickle charger, it's better in a warmer climate than sitting out in cold all winter. I'm going to put this on a trickle charger so it stays nice and topped up. But yeah, that'll do it for today's video. We appreciate you hanging out for a bit with us today. If you like these videos, maybe consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.